Going on to our next slide, the next thing you have to do is understand buyer behavior. It's so critical. Going back 10 years ago, we had very few tools in the marketing toolkit. We could use advertising or public relations or have an event. But now the whole world is open to us. We have social media, we have the internet and all the things that come with it. We have all sorts of things like cable TV and DVRs that really make it interesting to receive information in the way that you want. In fact, I assume that some of you are actually watching this specific webinar on your iPad, a tool we didn't have but a few years ago. So let me ask you a question. How would you go about choosing a new vendor? Well, a lot of people might make the first inclination to say, oh, I would go to Google and I would search, but it's really not true if you think about it. The first place that most people go to find a new vendor is that they look for a recommendation from a friend or a family member, a colleague or a coworker. Hey, do you know any good Italian restaurants that I could go out for my family's meal this weekend? When you get that recommendation, that's the highest form of marketing that we can do. The second place that most people would go, in lieu of a good recommendation, is the internet. Now, I was laying in bed the other night, and we had a little bit of a plumbing challenge in my house, and my wife put out on our Facebook account, hey, does anybody know a good plumber? And within 5 minutes, we had three options that we can choose from someone that came with a personal recommendation. Okay, everybody who's listening, some people thought that the echo was a little bit too much, so we want us to start over. Here's what I would recommend. We're actually recording this entire session, and it'll be posted to both the Kane Partners website and the Square 2 Marketing website in just a short period of time. So if you missed a couple things in the beginning, you can replay it as soon as it's over. So let's go back to our conversation about choosing a new vendor. We all agree that the first thing we want is a recommendation from someone we trust, and then the second place, in lieu of that recommendation, we would go to Google. So the next question that I would ask you very simply is, why would you assume that your prospects are behaving any differently? Think about it. A lot of people are spending money on traditional media. They're spending it on print advertising and telemarketing and trade shows. But yet, as buyers, we don't want that. We want to be able to research the information ourselves, come to a conclusion, and then just have the company help us finish the deal. So if we all agree that recommendations are great, specifically through social media, and internet search and having a great website are the key things to have, then why would we spend money on any traditional media? Now, I'm not saying that you can't integrate a good print ad in with your ad campaign or your marketing campaign. All I'm saying is that you have to match up your marketing tactics with the way that your buyers would like to receive their information. There's a dramatic change going on now between the matching of the buyer behavior of what we used to have and today. If you look at the column on the left, when we only had mass media things like TV and billboards, print, radio, telemarketing, trade shows, we had to do those things because we didn't have any other tools. The problem with mass media is that it's very interruptive. Think about when you taped a show on your DVR and the ads come on, you whiz right through them. You don't even think about it. It also requires a big budget, and most small companies and medium-sized companies don't have an unlimited marketing budget, and that makes it a little challenging to be effective in your mass media campaign. And finally, they give you a low return on investment. What I mean by that is, let's say you ran a local cable TV advertising campaign for $75,000 and you got 10 new clients. Okay, that would be great. But what if we could leverage the power of social media, get the same 10 new clients, and spend $100 or $200 generating those leads? While it would be the same revenue, we could put all the extra money that we wouldn't have had to spend on mass advertising into our pockets as profit. If you look at the other side, you have more of an inbound approach with the way that buyers are behaving now. They want to do a search, find lots of educational tools like videos, ebooks, white papers, educational things. They want to read about you and get reviews on social media. They want to go through your website and see all the videos that your clients have posted as reviews. And finally, if they're not ready to buy now, they want to give you permission to email them on a monthly basis to keep in touch and hear news stories about the company. Well, this method is permission-based. People are only accessing it if they're interested. All the things I mentioned earlier about websites and ebooks, white papers, and videos are very affordable, so it requires a modest budget. And of course, it's a much higher return than doing mass media. So think about these two shifts in buyer behavior from mass media to what we call reality marketing when you're considering your next marketing campaign. So now I'll pose a question to you, and I'll challenge you a little bit. What content can you push out via social media to help educate your clients and prospects? And the reason I say educate is because there's usually 3 steps to having someone do business with you. They have to know, like, and trust you. Well, knowing you is kind of easy. They heard about you or they saw some of your marketing materials. Liking you, that's pretty easy too. They go to your website, they can meet your management team and hear some success stories. It's the trust that becomes the hardest part. So if I go on Facebook and I see that 23 people recommended that I should eat at this restaurant, I feel like I can trust those other peers of mine, even though I've never met them, because we're all in this together. So think about some content that you could push out that'll help your target market get to know you a little better. And here's a quick example. This is a company called 5-Star Home Foods. And they're the kind of company that will deliver a freezer, put it in your garage, and then fill it up with some excellent chicken, fish, and meat, vegetables, desserts, par-baked bread, so that when you come home, there's always something good that's in your freezer. The target market for this, as you can see from this little website screenshot, is obviously 2 working parents that are busy that still want to eat healthy and eat well, but don't have the time to go to the supermarket or prepare dinner all day. So this company came up with their social media strategy using Twitter. And what their Twitter feed looks like is that every single day, twice a day, they're tweeting what's for dinner tonight. And they're pushing out some good recipes for people that are interested in making some of the food that they have in their freezer with some quick 30-minute or less recipes that are also relatively healthy. Well, that's driving a lot of traffic. And of course, you can retweet some good recipes. The tweets are also driving people back to the website to help with traffic. And of course, once you're back at the company's website, if you're not already a client, you can see all the wonderful things that 5-Star does. Once again, a little creativity, a little bit of strategy, and not too much expense using Twitter. Just to point out, there's some other things that are going on at 5-Star, like they're promoting right on their homepage to follow us on Twitter or Facebook. They'll also give you some free information as 9 easy recipes you can prepare in 29 minutes. And at the bottom left, you can see there's Chef Dan. He's the 5-Star Home Foods spokesperson, and he's got a set of videos to help you with either preparing foods or eating healthy. So there's a lot of content on this website that someone can use to feel comfortable about their buying decision. So let's talk about reality marketing. Reality marketing is the kind of marketing that we would recommend that's a match for the way that buyers behave these days. And there's 5 basic points that I want to take you through so that you can organize your own social media marketing campaign strategy. These 5 points include the first one, which is quantifiable. I was on my LinkedIn account the other day, and I saw this ad that you see in the top left corner. GE Capital, more bread for your jam. Click to play. And it was a video about this music instrument store that used GE Capital as their financing. But when you look at this ad, it's very, very fluffy, and it doesn't have any conversion feature. In fact, when you click on the ad, it takes you to the bottom right image that you see, which is just their homepage of the GE Capital website. So if I went to the marketing manager at GE Capital and I said to her, can you tell me how many new customers you got from this social media campaign? Could she give me the answer? Probably not. But if we would have been offering some kind of piece of content, whether it be a free report, a download, or watch a video, but before I watch the video, I have to give up some of my information, specifically my email address, well, now I can track to the actual person who converted on this social media campaign. And I start to build some metrics on how to quantify whether or not this stuff is working. Because one of the biggest challenges is that people don't know whether or not their social media is actually working or not once they set it up. So once again, everything has to be quantifiable. The next point is that everything has to be prospect focused. It has to be about them, the people that you want to spend money with your company, not about you and your 34,000 square foot facility and the fact that you're family owned and operated and you've been in business 23 years. And don't get me wrong, those points are all important validation points, but they're usually on the second page of the website, not the first page. So let me give you a little test that you can do, not only on your social media campaign, but on all your marketing materials. It's called the red and blue test. When you're putting something out there, make sure it's about them, not about you, and it's prospect focused. The letter on the left was written by a client of ours, and it was a plea for you as a customer to resubscribe for next year's service. As you can see, there's a ton of red circles and just a few blue circles. When we rewrote the letter and we made it about the customer, now you can see the response. All the blue circles are talking about how you can help the prospects and how the client can envision what it would be like to use this service. Just by flip-flopping that strategy to make it about them and not about the company itself, the letter on the right outperformed the letter on the left 18 to 1. Hey, we're not the brightest bulb on the tree. All we did is make the marketing conversation about the prospect and not about the company. So give it a try yourself. And if we're talking about social media, check out this website. Can you tell me what they do? Well, wait, why did I only give you a few seconds? Well, that's all the time you get on the internet. And if someone can't connect with your website, they probably won't do business with you. They'll hit that back button and they're on to one of your competitors. Here's another try. Can you tell me what this company does? They make paper. But check it out. Here's their big logo. Here's the owner. Here's the owner's daughter. Here's their big factory. And look at their first 4 navigation clicks. Who we are, our mission, a message from the Aaron family, and our management team. This website's all about the company, and it should be about the prospect, specifically people who buy paper. And that's a very easy switch to do. Here's a quick tip. If you answer these 4 questions, you can have a basic marketing strategy that'll help you define how you can be prospect-focused. 1, who's your target market? 2, what pains and problems do they have? Like, I don't know which paper to select for my next project. 3, how does your company solve those problems? Well, that's kind of obvious. We sell paper. But the 4th thing is the most important. How can we position those solutions as remarkable? Because if we have a really different story to tell than everybody else, well, now it's easy. We know what to say in our social media. We know what to say on our website. We know what to say in our email campaign because we're focused on all these remarkable solutions. And we'll talk about that a little more in a second. Here's a quick example of a company called Fielco. They do custom adhesives. Here's your typical adhesive buyer. Could be an engineer or a designer who works in a manufacturing facility. And the headline clearly says, I need an adhesive for a new application. Who can help me? And once again, you can find out what they do. But once again, the positioning of this website is all about the prospect, not about the company itself. The third point I want to take you through is being goal-oriented. And this is a huge step that a lot of people forget. You have to have some goals with your social media so you know whether or not it's working. So this is my mother-in-law, Phyllis Bergman. She's awesome. And she works at a 3-location allergist practice. So, of course, the doctors got all involved and fired up about social media, and they said, we need a Facebook page. So they created the Facebook page, and they asked every single friend, family member, or anybody connected with the practice, please be our friend on Facebook. They got to 51 people that decided to friend this practice on Facebook. My mother-in-law comes to me and she says, now what are we supposed to do? And that's a typical example of a lot of people we see dipping their toe in the waters of social media. They get started, they get set up, but they don't have a strategy behind it, and they specifically don't have any goals. So let me show you a little bit of goal setting that you might want to take yourself through to decide whether or not your efforts are going to be successful or not. The first piece is traffic. How many people do we need to bring to our Facebook page as an example? In this case, 5,000. A conversion rate, a good conversion rate, is usually 1 to 3%. And how we convert people that come to the Facebook page to do something or give up their information or download a white paper, for example. So we split it down the middle and we use the conversion rate of 2%, or 100 people. If we usually convert 3 to 5 times the opportunities, we know we need 100 people to get us 30 sales opportunities. If our average engagement size is $5,000 and we have a close rate of 50%, then we can multiply 15 sales, half of 30, times 5,000, and that gives us our next line item, total projected revenue of $75,000. Well, if our cost for social media is a part-time employee that costs us $30,000 a year, our gross profit is excellent, $45,000, which is derived from the $75,000 we sold minus the salary of the person that's working on our social media, and we get to keep $45,000. But look what happens here when we just change one of the metrics. Here, we're only receiving traffic of 2,500 people, and we're only converting 1% of them. Just by making that small change, now we're losing $10,000 on the effort. So the difference between success and failure on social media can be very, very subtle, and that's why it's important to set goals, track everything, and then come back and see, is it working or not? If it is working, we can double down and put more energy into our social media. But if it's not working, we can either fix it or get rid of it. The fourth point is a high return on investment, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's important to do things that get us incur very low cost, but get us a lot of traffic. A great example is this webinar series put out by a company called Hardmetrics. Every single quarter, they have a webinar where they get approximately 50 people that register and about 25 people that actually show up. They have a real nice conversation with a client and a vendor so that it's more of a problem-solving conversation as opposed to, let me sell you something. And usually at the end of that webinar, they get about 5 people that are interested in talking to the sales team. They usually close 1 or 2, but the kicker here is that the average engagement size for hard metrics exceeds $100,000 to put their software into play. So, this is a very high return on marketing investment because the webinar requires a little time and a little bit of a subscription to WebEx or GoToMeeting, but the return is huge. If they got that same client with a $50,000 print ad campaign and some trade periodicals, okay, they'd still be happy they got a new client, but it would cost them a heck of a lot more. And finally, the last thing in your marketing check is it remarkable? Is it worthy that someone would talk about your company? And this is not just for social media, this is for everything. When you don't have a strategy and you don't have something interesting to talk about, well, that's a lot of times where the confusion happens. People aren't getting the response they're looking for because their message is watered down or it's not different than any of the competition, and that's what's really key. So I thought I would take you through a little bit of an exercise with some examples to show you how other companies position themselves as remarkable, so you'll know what to say in your social media campaign. Here's the first example. This is a home builder. Well, when working with the home builder, we identified in their strategy that one of the pains of a person who builds a new house is they're dying to see the progress of that new house. So we suggested, hey, let's get some $49 webcams and let's stick them on a little pole right at the construction site and allow people who buy new homes to see the progress of their new house through the internet. Well, what was interesting about this scenario is that as soon as the home buyer got the login and password for to see their new house being built over the internet, they gave it to everybody they knew. You can picture going to Facebook and seeing that someone gives you a link, hey, check out my new house that's being built. You can see it through the internet. Well, once again, a very low cost but very creative way to drive buzz about your company. Once again, the chances are that the people who buy these new homes hang out with other people that are kind of similar to them. So by using social media, they're spreading the word to the same target market that the builder would like to attack. Here's a second example. Would you rather go to a regular Italian restaurant or this place where this guy pops out periodically and sings some opera? The key here is that this restaurateur positioned their company as different than everybody else's for a very low cost. You see, there's not too many places to sing opera in public, so this guy is more than happy to do it free, and they trade him a nice plate of spaghetti and meatballs at the end of the night as his pay. Once again, low cost but high creativity to position the company as remarkable. Well, here's that company I showed you earlier called Happy Lawn. It was their letter in the red and blue test that we were dissecting to see, is it about them or is it about their prospects and clients? What they do is they spread fertilizer on your lawn to make your grass green. Now, how could that possibly be remarkable? Well, the secret here is that the old method, when you call a company like True Green or ChemLawn, is that they send a guy out in a couple of days, and then he has to measure your property, and then go back to the office, figure out the price, and then finally let you know it'll be $49 an application. What they do at Happy Lawn is that they marry tax records with satellite photos. So when you call up and say, I'm interested in getting my lawn fertilized, they say, let's have your address. They look at your Google Maps image and they look at the public tax records to see the size of your property. And right there over the phone, they can say, based on what we see, it's going to be $49 an application. Would you like to get started today with Visa, MasterCard, or American Express? The key differentiator here is that it's not in the product that they actually sell you, it's in the way that they manage their service. So it doesn't have to be your product that's remarkable, it can also be the way that you sell it that could be remarkable and spreads buzz. This company cut the sales cycle from a traditional 2 weeks down to 2 minutes, and that's why they're signing up people before the other guys can even get out there and give you a quote. So here's some good news. It's all about content and conversion, specifically in social media. Here's an old-fashioned example of cornflakes. Cornflakes was the only cereal that was invented in 1902, but people didn't eat it until World War II because then it was necessary to have quick breakfasts because the men were off to war and the women were working in the factory, so the traditional bacon and eggs breakfast that we used to eat as Americans, it wasn't realistic enough. Well, what happened was once it became popular to eat as a breakfast cereal, all sorts of competition came around. And that competition, as you can see here, averages 63 choices alone in breakfast options in typical American grocery stores. Look at poor cornflakes in the back row here. They used to own the market, and now they're just one of many, many competitors. So using that, we have to be smarter. We have to use three-step social media marketing, which means that instead of the old way it used to be done, where we would advertise and hope for a sale, now what we do is put out all of our remarkable messaging through social media and offer people things that we can convert them, whether it be additional content through white papers, webinars, tip sheets, guides, videos, anything that we can offer to exchange for their contact information. Now we put them into our database and continue the conversation with them because they've given us permission to talk to them and enter their world. And don't get me wrong, we're always going to be asking for the sale, but this is a way to build that know, like, and trust scenario we talked about before in a regular, rhythmic fashion. Speaking of regular and rhythmic, that's where the term marketing machine comes in. You have to build a machine that's always driving content. Many people have showed me their blogs, and the last post date on their blogs is literally 3 or 4 months ago. Well, that's not a machine that's continuously working to crank out a conversation between you and your prospects. That's an occasional post on a blog. Remember, a blog is a conversation that has to be conducted by both sides, both you and the people that are reading and commenting on there. So that machine concept is very important. In a manufacturing facility, raw materials come in one side of the machine and finished goods come out the other. In a marketing machine, contact information goes in one side of the marketing machine and sales come out the other. And that's what's so important, to keep generating a regular, consistent conversation with your prospects and clients. You can see here from this slide that when someone hears about your company, it's point A. And our job is to move them from point A to point Z, where we get the big bag of cash, which is why you sat in on this webinar today. How we do that is by lots of marketing events. And in the case today where we're talking about social media, think about it. Someone's thinking about eating at your restaurant or using your accounting service, and they decide to follow you on Twitter or friend you on Facebook or become your contact on LinkedIn. Well, if you're not saying anything, you're not moving the conversation forward to do business together. But if every day you provide a couple of pieces of content that feature some of the remarkable things that you're doing, get some client testimonials, success stories, case studies, now the person's listening and you're constantly building a case why your company is the obvious choice to do business with. Well, the beautiful thing about a marketing machine is that you have to keep talking to people all the time because we never know when they're going to be ready to buy. So by constantly introducing new people to your company and taking them through your conversation and giving them lots of content, at the end of the day, when they're ready to either buy your product or select a new vendor, you're the obvious choice to do business with. So even with the little technical difficulties, I'm still at about my end of the first half, and I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Kane. As part of my offer, I would like to give you a free 30-minute website or marketing review to talk about your specific case. If you go to this website address, obviously, you'll be able to fill out a quick form, and either myself or one of our marketing consultants will be able to brainstorm with you for 30 minutes to talk about how we can improve some of your response, not just on your website, but in social media in general. So I'll thank you very much again. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Kane now, who's going to now talk about the implementation of social media now that we've had a good conversation about strategy. So without further ado, here's Kristen Kane. And let me just switch over. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Eric. I'm very excited to be here and really help you take the next step with social media. And Eric, I think you hit the nail on the head by saying most people simply dive in with social media head first. Why? Because they think they have to. They've heard from a friend, a coworker, I need to be on Facebook and I have to sign up for Twitter or Tweeter or whatever it is. So you're there and you just have no idea why. And the sad thing is whenever I'm speaking about social media, I survey the crowd and ask how many businesses are using social media. Just about every person in the crowd raises their hand very enthusiastically. And I ask everyone, survey says, how many of you are actually seeing results? Less than 10% see results. And it's scary because so many of you are becoming frustrated with social media because you're there and you don't know why. So let's figure out why most businesses are failing with social media. And Eric, you just set the stage for us. It's the lack of plan, strategy, or reason for being there. There's no clear message, but another piece that's really helping businesses fail is the lack of training. LinkedIn's easy, Facebook's easy. However, without the right training for settings, expectations for etiquette, It's very hard to know if you're using the sites properly. And last but not least, they're lacking measuring tools. And that's how many hits are you getting? If you're driving website traffic, how many people are actually going there? And what's great about social media, if you implement it properly, they're going to give you these results for free. So let's just redo our business mindset here, and let's keep in mind the marketing machine that Eric spent explaining to us and the mindset of how we need to be dripping on our clients with social media. So with that in mind, think about your website or your newsletter, an email campaign, any of the industry advertisements, trade shows, expos, and yes, even snail mail. What are you currently doing, and what aspect of that is a conversation, the dialogue? And that's really what you should be thinking about for this online community that you're creating. You have to make sure that when someone, and a great example is the doctor's office, you can't just like the page. You have to make sure you're telling someone what they're going to get on the other end, what's in it for them. So in creating this community, what would they be expecting? And when you're thinking about implementation of social media, think about videos and photos, because when it comes to successful social media, the companies that receive the highest click-through rates and the largest amount of engagement have some aspect of consistent photos or videos that would be streaming through Facebook and or Twitter, their blog, etc. So you want to actually engage your customers, your clients, and prospects with some aspect of photos or videos. Of course, other methods of creating this content include a simple status update, networking or communicating back and forth, or sharing your blogs, other people's blogs, or articles that you may come across. In this case, for social media, content creation is king. But it has to be fun and purposeful. There needs to be that call to action that Eric was talking about. What do you want them to do? And for most of us, it's going to be collecting the data and allowing them to be in your network, the approved communication. So when you think about social media, most of us will think about the big four: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. However, there truly are hundreds of social media sites that you could be engaging your clients in. It's all about knowing where your prospects and clients are. So some of you may be a little overwhelmed looking at this screenshot, frantically looking to see how many of them you actually know. Well, let's break it down a little bit more. Each social networking site really has a purpose or a goal. So for instance, you have a number of sites that are dedicated to blogs. It's not just Blogger, Typepad, or WordPress, but there are dozens of other options that you can be engaging in the blog community. Same for bookmarking sites, if you're looking to promote events, videos, if you're a location-based site, or if you're engaging in social networks. It's actually all about going to the right site and communicating the right message through the right medium. So how do you engage your audience? And Eric had mentioned earlier, coming up with the right content, being remarkable, and that's exactly what you need to do. So once you have that idea, think about ways you can communicate your remarkable message in multiple forms of medium. Again, photos and videos being key. So walking away from today, what I want to do is focus on the 6 steps for social media success to help get you started to no longer just having a Facebook page or a Twitter account, but actually starting to see that success. So if you want to implement social media successfully, let's just start over. First of all, what is your goal for being on social media? And I'm not going to take as an answer because I have to be. Let's actually look to define our goals. Focus on audience, then we bring in our content, select the proper sites to engage our social media prospects, implement the measuring tools, and finally have a plan for executing all of this. So let's break it down. Number 1 is the goal or reason for engaging in social media. We can have dozens of reasons, but you want to make sure that some of your reasons are something that you can quantify, track, monitor, and measure. And that's when you'll know if the return on your investment, whether it's the employee that you're hiring, the advertising dollars you're spending on Google or Facebook, is it paying off in the end? So some recommendations of social media goals that you can have, and I've highlighted in orange a few that will be easy to monitor, at least for those that are beginners. Loyalty building, simply keeping the clients that you actually already have. That just means you can't lose any clients to a competitor. So number 1, loyalty building. Number two that I pointed out are really the referrals. Most people, as Eric mentioned, they'll go to their Facebook community or their family and friends asking for a referral to someone who can provide a particular product or service. It's your job when someone calls in that's new to your business to simply ask, whether it's having a notepad next to the reception desk or some sort of an actual tracking method. Make sure that you're tracking how the referrals are getting to you. Number 9, and this probably should be everyone's focus, is website traffic. If you want to increase web traffic, you need to have a basis or platform to know how many people are coming to your site now. If you want to increase that number, you need somewhere to start. So increasing web traffic is an easy thing that you can monitor on a regular basis. And finally, number 10 that I like to focus on for my clients is more bids or proposals. That's just an opportunity, more at-bats to sell your products or services. It's a chance to sit down in front of a prospect and tell them why you are in fact remarkable. Some great examples of companies that have come up with goals and reasons for engaging in social media are Dell, KLM the airline, and Starbucks. Each of these companies started social media at a very basic level for creating an online community. Dell, for instance, is now seen in the forefront of social media engagement because of the level of customer service that they're providing. They're not only engaging sales, but customer support as well as marketing. KLM is a great example for customer service, handling complaints. They were able to, on the fly, rearrange their social media campaign when the volcano erupted in Iceland, actually having a 1-hour response time through social media for all of their clients. And Starbucks, they're continually engaging in social media and new technologies to continue to improve the customer satisfaction for their clients. All of these companies started out with one goal or reason, and they actually changed with what their clients needed. So the key takeaway here is don't just set a goal and leave your goal. Make sure you're always evaluating and improving your social media goals or reasons for being there. Number 2, you have to define your audience on social media. And when it comes to defining audiences, I always defer to Eric and the guys at Square 2 Marketing simply because they are great at identifying who your target market is. And what I mean by that is you have to be specific. It's not just broad spectrum, I want to target anyone looking to buy or sell a home, but rather take it a step further. It's the first-time home buyers that are within Montgomery County that are newly engaged looking to buy a home. It's much easier to talk to that market than it is to talk about anybody looking to buy or sell. So when it comes to successfully implementing social media, look to set up multiple target markets that are on social media so you can start to create and customize your content to speak directly to them. So that's only half the battle about your target audience. The second part is knowing where they are. If you're a realtor and you're looking to sell property to, let's say, senior citizens that are looking to sell their home going into perhaps a retirement community, they're probably not going to be on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., but their children were or are. So you want to make sure you're targeting the right audience through social media as well as the right message. Now there's 2 parts to understanding your target audience. One is making sure, they're on social media, but which site they'll most likely be. And the second is the timing of when they'll most likely be on. If you're targeting the first-time home buyer, most likely they'll be engaging on Facebook after hours when they get back from the office, usually between the hours of 6 and 9 o'clock at night. If you're targeting a stay-at-home mom that has a growing family and expecting, chances are she's catching time on Facebook while the kids are napping or right before the kids get off the bus. So it's all about distributing your message at the right time. Many companies get caught up in the fact that they're distributing their message when it's convenient for them. And think, when is my prospect or client going to receive the message in the most timely fashion? And the example here is you have 3 different types of prospects, and hitting all of them at the same time, they're not going to hear your message. Also, don't forget, if you're looking nationally or internationally, the time zones. Finally, we're at content. Methods of communication. How are you going to share your message? And let's again not forget, it's not just about a status update. It can also include those photos and videos. The most important thing when it comes to the content is you cannot be a robot. It's not all about you. And the red and blue test is a great example. People want to know what's in it for them. When they think of social media, it's an online community. They're expecting to hear back from you. And it shouldn't sound like an automated response. It should be customized to make them feel engaged and truly connected to you, your brand, product, and service. So when I think of content for social media, I like to think of the 50-50 rule. And what that means is 50% of the content should be original, coming from your office, your team members, behind the scenes look. And really you're sharing your message about your industry or whatever you're looking to achieve for social media. The second part of the 50% is shared content. Someone else would be putting out the message or communication, and it's simply supporting what you're saying or how you're doing your business. So you can do 50-50, half them, half you. But you always want to make sure you're asking yourself, does it ultimately reach your goal and purpose with social media? And my favorite thing is think before you post. Never Twitter when you're bitter, and be careful about Facebooking while intoxicated. They can have very bad ramifications, personally and professionally. That's the HR side of me coming out, so please be careful. But the message is key. So for those of you that might be new and overwhelmed, think about what are other people saying that you agree with. It's okay to share content, but of course, give credit where credit is due. So if we go back to our hundreds of social media sites and you're thinking about your content, and those of you that may be a little bit more advanced, make sure that you're thinking, how can I leverage my video? Maybe it's not just Facebook, but engage in Vimeo or corporate TV and other sites to share your message to different types of markets. So don't forget, it's not just the big four when dealing with social media. In terms of a think tank, just some additional ideas. Eric thought and shared a number of them with you. But when it comes to content, it could be the case study, a video slideshow, a photo slideshow, testimonials, do's and don'ts. One thing that I'm finding is most people, when it comes to content, they love the top 5 of X or the most bizarre things. So if you're going to invest your time in original content, those top 10 lists are a great way to start without really overextending yourself and racking your brain for good content. So that's a little recommendation for you there. Up next, we have implementing measuring and tracking tools. And believe it or not, it's a lot easier than you think. And most of the tools that are out there offer free versions. So if you're doing anything on social media, those of you that are in the audience and thinking to yourself, yes, I'm on social media, and no, I cannot raise my hand because I'm not seeing results, chances are you do not have any tracking or measuring tools in place. Before I dive into this, keep in mind that it is going to take time. You're not going to see results at the end of the week or maybe even at the end of the month, but you will see progressive results. So as long as you're heading in an upward direction, you're going in the right direction. So measurement tools, the easiest thing, those of you that want to increase website traffic, Google Analytics. You can put it on the back end of your site, and it will allow you to point your website, and you'll notice here this is a screenshot of one of our pages. I've highlighted all of the sites that Kane Partners is on. So when you're on our website, you can immediately link into any of our social media sites. And if you're on any of our social media sites, you can link right back to our website. It's a reciprocal back and forth. And the benefit is Google is going to tell me where people are originating from. You'll see on the very top, this is just a simple screenshot of what Google Analytics is able to provide you. I've circled the top 3 things, which are the peaks. That's actually when we're engaging in social media. So we can automatically see results from a quick screenshot that, okay, the days I've engaged in social media, we're seeing spikes in website traffic. Is social media working? Yes. Is there more to it? Of course. Eric went through and explained monetizing social media and the conversion rates, etc. But this is at least something basic that you can do to see if you're trending in the right direction. Not only that, but Google Analytics is going to let you know how much time people are spending on your site, the number of pages that they're hitting, and even where they're originating from. All very important, especially if you're looking to increase website traffic. Real quickly, since we're on Facebook, I thought it would also be beneficial. Those of you that went out and created the Facebook page because you had to, Facebook offers what's called insights. And here's a screenshot, and you can watch when new people are liking you. You can also track the number of likes and comments what particular posts are receiving comments and how many people are actually clicking them, as well as the number of impressions that are happening. All of this information is free, and it's able to help you analyze what is being received by your audience and maybe what isn't being received, so you can truly content target your audience. A few other things that I think are definitely worth mentioning are URL shorteners, bit.ly, ally, tinyURL. It allows you to share a link to a blog, an article, or a website at any time, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can actually track if anyone is clicking your particular link. So here is a URL that was shared on social media. It's telling you for free that there were 41 clicks and 4 people shared this information on Facebook. It's also going to show you at the bottom of the screen how many clicks happened in what particular days. So this will help you gauge timing for when you should be putting your post out, as well as the preferred mediums that people are engaging with this particular content. Very powerful. Again, it's a free tool, and it's going to help you gauge what would be working or potentially not working for your social media. I will tell you as a tip, if you are using bit.ly or ally or tinyURL and you're not seeing any particular results, instead of ditching the link or the article, instead try posting it at a different time or try the delivery method a little bit differently. Don't make people feel like they have to click, but give them a reason why to click. Ask a question or have a clever way to deliver that particular message. Last but not least is you have to create a plan. And the plan can be very easy. I like to say I work my social media off of a cocktail napkin format. All that means is I understand who my key players are for my social media with our company. I know how much time on a weekly basis I'm able to dedicate and want to dedicate to social media. I've set up parameters for the types of content and expectations that my clients and prospects would be receiving. And I know the sites that I'm engaging social media with. So if anything, jot down the 6 steps for social media. Your goals, the different target audiences, the type of content that you can be targeting to your audience that will help you achieve each of your goals, and mark down which sites that you would like to start social media with. At all times, make sure you have your measuring tools. Analytics and the URL shorteners are 2 easy ones to get started with. And of course, the plan is what days you'll be saying, how often you'll be saying, and you'll be able to measure your entire social media campaign. So next time we host a webinar and we ask how many of you are engaging in social media, you'll all raise your hand, and after that, when we say how many are receiving results, everyone will be able to raise their hand saying, I'm seeing results as a result of posting on Facebook and LinkedIn, Twitter. I can see a direct result of increased web traffic. Or I'm now realizing that the referrals that are coming out of are because I posted something on my Facebook wall which was forwarded to someone else. So it's all about tracking everything that you're doing with social media. The best part is online gives you breadcrumbs. In the end, you should be receiving a return on your investment. And if you're not, there's probably one piece that's missing. I would definitely head back and go to training and really understand the tools and etiquette of how to do everything with social media. My final thoughts for you with successful engagement of social media is make sure your team's on board, and you have to be excited, because if you see this as being painstaking, people on the other end will as well. It's all about engagement. When people are posting on your wall, make sure that you're replying or thanking them or responding back. Have a clear goal in mind. Create quality content, be remarkable, and be proud of being remarkable. Ensure that your content will ultimately help your goal, and that's how you'll begin to start to see the return on your investment. And most importantly, I'm a huge advocate of training for social media sites. So make sure you take the time to understand not only the administrative tools, but also the etiquette and how to properly use each of the sites. So with that being said, they are my tips for your social media sites. And here's my contact information. I invite all of you to connect with me, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. And of course, my how-to webinars are available.
Absolutely. I will personally say that I learned most of my first things about social media from Kristen about a year and a half, 2 years ago perhaps, when you first got started.
Yes.
So here's Kristen's contact information if you want to reach out to her specifically. Of course, follow Kane Partners and all of Kristen's work. And you want to talk about that new series I just saw you unveil with the classes that are coming out?
Oh, absolutely. So most companies, I'm all about training the trainer. companies, you have a role within marketing, within sales, etc. So I've unveiled very easy how-to webinars that have 4 to 5 bullet points that we'll cover in a 60-minute webinar that are available on our website. So thanks for letting me plug that. Anyone's welcome to go to kanepartners.net and click the social media tab, and it'll list everything there. And it's an effort to help people understand how to use each of the sites, and the big focus is administrative tools. So thanks so much for letting me plug.
Oh, my pleasure. And just to remind you of what Square 2 Marketing is offering at the end of this webinar, of course you're supposed to go and like Square 2 Marketing's Facebook and Kane Partners Facebook pages and everything that we can do content-wise. But also, if you're looking to get started on a marketing campaign, give us a jingle and we'll set up some time to talk about you specifically. So I'm going to stop sharing our screen now. And I'm going to go back to our video and our chat bar to see if anybody has some questions. And of course, we can use the remainder of our 8 minutes together during this hour to discuss any questions. And I'm at the Facebook check-in. Ask questions here. Okay, and our first question comes to, did you create a Facebook, oh, that was you.
That was me. All in the audience.
Sorry, nice.
Okay.
We have some comments about Chrome on a different browser, reloaded, so some people are having some problems, so.
One is really just a statement, but it does seem like a lot to process, and I guess maybe we could comment on that while people are putting together some of their comments here and questions.
Sure.
But the biggest thing to take away is you really are not reinventing the wheel. It's almost like you're fine-tuning the current marketing that you've been doing. This shift that's happening with social media, it's actually supposed to help and make things feel, and your clients and customers feel as though you're connected and you're building this relationship. So most people see it as overwhelming and it's another thing to do, where in fact it's not only supporting your customer service and can improve that, but also your marketing, your sales, and if you successfully pull all of them together, it should actually be a productivity tool and something that you can actually provide results for. So it's kind of all about starting small and looking to build.
I actually saw a great article about Comcast here in the Philadelphia area, and I think they have 30 people now responding to comments, complaints, suggestions in their social media department, and it's cut their response time by some ridiculous figure because somebody posts something to Facebook like, I can't believe the Comcast guy is late. 2 minutes later, they have a response and they found out what's going on through Facebook. So you're right, it's not more work, it's just a different way of thinking about how you would approach customer service or any kind of content development. Drew says that he's been using Facebook tools and he's gotten a lot of results for his church Facebook. And you're right about trivia. People eat that up. Well, trivia is just one category of content. At Square 2 Marketing, we try to put out as much content as we can. So we're spread thin as a company. Some people work on the videos on our weekly video marketing minutes. Some people do the blog posts. Some obviously on Facebook. I personally take care of our Twitter feed where I'm directing people to interesting articles all the time. And the response of, let me help you, let me help you, let me help you as a posture in your marketing, as opposed to, what can I sell you today, gets dramatically better response these days when people really want some assistance in trying to figure out exactly what the best thing to do is. So I would say from a content perspective, the number one thing that you can do is help people figure out how to make their jobs easier or how to make purchases easier or how to figure out amongst a whole bunch of selections which will be the right choice. So our last question here is any thoughts on Hootsuite, TweetDeck, and will it help with posting? Do you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. I think those of you that want to post outside of your traditional work hours, Hootsuite, TweetDeck, what they are social media dashboards. It allows you to pull in all of your social media sites to one online platform, and it can also allow you to schedule and post your tweets. I do recommend, if you're going to go the route of a social media dashboard, that you actually receive training and really figure out what the etiquette is. The biggest mistake people make with social media dashboards is they'll actually do a status update or share an article, and they'll go through and they'll check LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter and hit send at the same time. So they're sending the same message to all three networks, and they're not, you lose that actual connection. So my recommendation is make sure when you're talking to Twitter, it's more headline focused. When you're talking to Facebook, it has that friendly feel where you're relating to people at a personal level. And when you're on LinkedIn, you're sharing the message as more educational and business focused. So it's a great tool. Just be careful not to overuse it. And it's really great for scheduling outside of the work hours.
Yeah, in fact, just a quick comment. One of the marketing thought leaders that I saw give a presentation recently was Guy Kawasaki. And he's Alltop, and Alltop is like a congregation of all blogs. And what he explained is that they tweet the same tweet 4 times over the course of the day using one of those tools to set it up in advance. And I was thinking, well, wow, why so many times? And he explained that not everybody is on Twitter all day. So if you miss that feed, you have 4 opportunities over the course of the day. The numbers were staggering. If they tweet once, they get 600 people to click through. When they click 4 times a day, when they tweet 4 times a day, there's no degradation. They get 600 times 4 or 2,400 click-throughs just because not everybody's using it. Well, you couldn't do that unless you organize that using a tool about the time of day they release it. So there's some positive benefits there. We actually have another interesting question. Chris Dolan asked, what are your thoughts regarding paid Facebook advertising running concurrently with the non-paid activities you reviewed? Well, let's just make sure. There's effort involved here to be a social media marketer. So with that effort comes expense, whether it's an employee doing it or an outside service that you're hiring or somewhere in between. So when you look at it, Facebook advertising like a pay-per-click Facebook campaign, it's very interesting because a lot of people think that that would be a completely different way to approach a marketing tactic than other things, but it's not. Everything you do in marketing, the answer is always testing and tracking. So if you want to experiment with a Facebook advertising campaign, that's great. Start off small, test a couple of campaigns, let it funnel through, see how the response is, and then make your decisions based on that. Because the campaign, the target market, the vehicle that you're using, the offer that you're giving people are all variables that can change. So I would recommend giving it a try because it is obviously a great way to reach your prospective clients or current clients, but don't get crazy and run up thousands of dollars on your credit card. Start slow, test, make adjustments, and then continue to build your tactical strategy from there.
Absolutely.
Okay,
and what's great about Facebook is you can really target your posts, so you can really focus in. So I would start with a smaller number versus going for a couple thousand people in the area. Really hone in on your target market and maybe try a couple hundred to have your message repeat several times.
For multiple postings, the question is, when is it too much? Well, you know, it's too much when you see a degradation in metrics. And a wonderful example that I'll give you is email marketing. Some people want to do email marketing every single day to say, buy my products. Well, that's a problem. And I'm not just telling you it's a problem because I think it's a problem. The data shows that. If you look at things like opt-out rates on email campaigns, the more frequently you send an email, the more and more people opt out or unsubscribe from your campaign. Well, it's the same thing with Facebook or Twitter. If you're rehashing or doing too much, people get annoyed. Think about your friend on Facebook who's constantly telling you what they're doing every minute of the day. At a certain point, you just want to turn off their feed because it's distracting or annoying to you. It's the same thing with marketing. So what you want to do is start slow, like Kristen just said, and then maybe add a little bit more frequency and see if the metrics will hold up. If your people are unsubscribing or unfriending you because you're irritating them, that's probably a sign that you're posting a little bit too much. So, because we're sensitive to our time and it just rolled over to 2 o'clock, we've done our job here and hopefully given you a suitcase full of nuggets to think about with your social media campaign. This will be recorded and posted, like I said earlier, and please don't forget to like us on Facebook, both Square 2 Marketing and Kane Partners, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.